Welcome to the inaugural show of AI Productivity Workflow. It's a podcast and a vodcast. You can catch us on YouTube, and we'll give you information on that. And you can also catch us as a podcast for the audio portion of it. This show focuses on the practical side of artificial intelligence, how real people use AI tools to get their work done more efficiently, creatively, and most important, productively. In each episode, we're going to talk to professionals about their work and scholarship, some of it around AI, and then take an in-depth look at how they integrate AI in their day-to-day basis and their day-to-day workflows. Whether you're a teacher, researcher, or professional looking to sharpen your productivity edge, you'll find ideas in this program. So we encourage you to subscribe and listen to us when you can. In this first episode, we welcome Dr. Yusen Zhai, a counselor educator, researcher, and innovator who has explored the intersections of counseling, technology, and productivity. Yusen, we go back a few years. It's nice to have you on this first show, and I know you're involved in AI research and research using AI and also research about AI. So it's great to hear your stories about it.
Yeah, well, thank you, Marty, for inviting me to this show. And I'm so glad to have this opportunity to share what I have been using AI and how it helped me and helped my academic journey.
You reminded me that we met when you were a new counselor educator or a new or like a emerging scholar, I think it was, and then we bumped into each other again on the ACA AI workforce that they had put together for the American Counseling Association, and worked more closely in getting sections of that put together, also with Russell and other people on the committee, putting together some guidelines for the American Counseling Association. And it's great to have you. And then you show up at one of my presentations, and I show up at one of yours. And so
Yeah,
it's just great to have you as a partner in a lot of this stuff. So
yeah,
tell me a little bit
same
about
way.
your professional journey and any scholarship that you've done. Where are you now? Where did you get your degree? Things like that.
Yeah. I complete my PhD in counseling education at Pennsylvania State University, and my background primarily in clinical mental health counseling. And prior to that, I studied computer science. And I still remember, like, in the very first artificial intelligence course, like, our professor would bring like a prototype robot like toy in the classroom, and then she just let the robot just dance, right? It's to us at that point, it sounds very fun, it's fascinating. And then like she pointed at this robot prototype and telling us this is not artificial intelligence. This is actually some program stuff over there. And we laughed, and we see how artificial intelligence can play a role in people's life. Because if we survey people 20 years ago and we ask them what are artificial intelligence, they may tell us that it's like a robot,
Mm-hmm.
and in classroom, if we thinking about AI tutor or teacher, they won't think about those large language models. They would think like a robot cyborg teacher in
Yeah.
front of the classroom. And right now I think it's getting better, and when we ask people, what do you think AI is about, and guess what answer would be? Like, more likely ChatGPT or
Yeah,
those
ChatGPT
large.
or predictive LLM models.
Yeah. But in fact, AI is more than that. There's a lot of sub branches, machine learning and supervised learning, unsupervised learning, deep learning, etc. And in fact, the chatbots or those primarily large language model are all transformer neural network model. It's all deep neural networks, all based on machine learning. So we now start seeing a lot of potential of those AI tools can help us and also help me as well.
So you've done some scholarship on this. I mean, I've seen you present, but I think you've also done some writing. You were in your presentation, you talked a little bit about how you were incorporating into the research that you were doing on it. Speak to a little bit about that.
Well, I think AI can serve as an alternative in addition to the statistical methods. And it really depends on the research question we are asking. But the more I read the literature and those research study, the more I realize that we can utilize machine learning or AI to help us better understand data and uncover those hidden patterns among the data, tens and thousands or even millions data points.
So
Am I
you're,
frozen again?
yeah, no, you're fine. You're doing well. For clarity, so applying like large data information to AI to help you understand trends within it is what you're suggesting.
Yeah, that's one way we can use it. And another thing is that, for example, when we run statistical analysis, we do rely on a lot of assumptions, like the normality, or we check multicollinearities, etc. And the beauty of machine learning is that it doesn't heavily rely on those assumptions. And say if we want to, you know, build a predictive models, and we don't have to if it is not it's a nonlinear relationship, then we don't have to use those polynomial regression specify the term. What we can do is just feed the data into the model or tree-based model or other supervised learning model and let the algorithm to learn the relationship among the data by itself, and then it will share with us about what they discover, what they have learned.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, you know, we have we have more analytic tools when we realize that we are facing a more intricate data sets.
Yeah. So before we get into any specifics of how you kind of use it in your own productivity, I mean, you are applying that in terms of data analysis, that how you use it for your own productivity. Is there anything else about your scholarship or your engagement in this topic from a professional scholarship or service kind of activity that you would like to share? And where are you now? That was the one part of the question I asked that I'm sure listeners are interested in. What institution are you at? What are you doing? And what is your scholarship around AI?
Yeah, I'm currently working at University of Florida, and there is AI initiatives here. I believe we have and there is a good resources and for me to connect with people who have those passions and also share some common interests in this topic. And particularly, one thing we are working on is to, for example, build a predictive model on issues over other mental health issues like suicide risk and depression, anxiety across the broad populations. And because imagine as a counselor, what we emphasize is prevention and early intervention. I think
Mm-hmm.
it is valuable that we know where or how we can allocate those outreach or those services to specific people who are at specific risk for certain mental health issues. And that way we are well positioned to approach them and potentially save lives.
That's very cool. On my end, I'm focusing more on ways in which it can be used as a tool for work and productivity from sort of the academic role place. But you really are tackling a interesting problem and with interesting solutions in terms of making the modeling the best way you can about predictability in the at-risk clients and what could happen with at-risk clients. And I
Yeah.
remember seeing you present, and you were kind of there talking about it at one time at a large presentation at ACA, and you kind of, you kind of made the assumption the next step here is we're going to be able to use it as predictive models. So I'm glad you're affiliated with the folks at University of Florida who are kind of taking that work seriously in terms of it. You're involved, I think, with ACEs in terms of doing some work with them around AI, and are working with ACEs is the Association for Counselor Education and Supervision, and I think that's exciting that you're part of that. Anything else you want to share about your work or your passions?
Yeah, I think one thing I would like to add to it is that like how AI has infiltrated into our life spontaneously, and I realized that like two or 2023, that's the first time I present the topic of AI in ACES conference, and we have a lot of faculty and students coming in, and they're quite interested in this topic. But the concept AI is still kind of new, although it's AI is not something new. But in our profession, for some of us, it's relatively new. But look at where we are right now. Like more people start embracing technology and use ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot and to facilitate or streamline their work, or
Yeah.
even just make their life easier.
Yeah, I think in 2023, there were a lot of people who didn't know about it. And what they heard about it was more the dangers associated with it. And it's not to say that it's ethically clean and always accurate, but it's gotten so much better. And it's dependent on how you use it and how well you use it in order to get the better responses that you need. And people have gotten more creative with it. Now, I think still a lot of people show up at presentations on AI and are skeptical, are angry because their students are using it, and they don't know what that means or how to pull that into the process of learning very well. So I think there's still a group of folks who are on the outside and curious or outside and upset. But that number is getting a little smaller, because you would I my interaction with folks is that I use it a lot, and what I found is faculty are kind of owning up to the fact that they're using it too. And to some degree, there's a bit of hypocrisy in it when they tell their students they have to learn a different way than how as faculty we are now working. So it's in the last 2 or 3 years, it's really changed.
Yeah, and I also think this, especially those large language model, generative AI or chatbot, whatever you would call it, will become part of life. And it's just like cell phone or even
Mhm.
personal computers. Like it's if done inappropriately, it will cause some harm. It will cause harm. But that's why if we need to use it wisely, strategically, it will benefit us. It's the same thing if we use or we teach students how to use it, or use them in a responsible way, ethical way. I think it will help to promote their learning outcomes, and also like provide us more opportunity to to rethink about the curriculum, to rethink about the way we train our students, or even rethink the way we may work with our clients and ultimately benefit clients' outcomes.
Yeah, well, for technology interested people, we've been fighting that battle for a long time because How can you possibly do counseling over the internet? And guess what? Now it's part of the mainstream. It's part of what clients want too sometimes, which is even more interesting. That we had to go where the clients were, not tell the clients where they have to go. So, but yeah, that's always seems to be the battle of technology because technology and moves faster than change for people, and that's always been the fun part of it for me too, is being able to do that. I'm curious if you have, and if you have the opportunity to talk about how you use it, or at least one example that our listeners or viewers can take and say, "Hey, I think I want to try that," or "I do the same thing. Let me see how you does it if it works for me." So, with very little preparation, I kind of put you up to this. So we'll do our best to, if you can walk through how you do it, and I will try and make some step by steps for the show notes. So it'll be part of the show notes. So if listeners don't get it while they're listening to it, or viewers don't get it while they're viewing it, it'll be in the show notes for them to kind of play with afterwards.
Yeah, I think I just talk about the using AI as an analytical tool, right? And AI actually can be used in many other ways. And one other thing I want to add to my research using AI is that like we're also using AI to just try to see what kind of feedback they can give it back to our students, or in a simulated environment, how it can play as a client and can interact with our Predicon students before they seeing real world clients. So just prepare them more. But the problem is that how well they act as a client, and then when they give student feedback, how well those feedback are. Because as you are aware, like sometimes the response are very often quite positive, encouraging, and lack some nuances. So this is something we are keep researching on. So going back to the other.
Can we? Yeah, I'm going to stop before we go further. So the idea here is using students interacting in either conversation or in relating to the chatbot, and then the chatbot eventually giving them feedback on how well they did, or what issues might have come out from that. Is a, I mean, that's a exciting possibility right there. I did some stuff with Second Life a long time ago, and part of that was trying to set up a simulation for play therapy before the students had to go in and do play therapy with real kids. And it was kind of fun doing that. And so when you talk about having students interact with a LLM or some type of chatbot, and then the chatbot being asked to give feedback, I think that's real exciting. And a possibility. It's it might not be as direct or as nuanced as you say as a real person would be, but at least it gives them potential feedback for their performance on where they could improve.
Exactly. Think about like the training we had, that like we will have mock session, we pair
Right.
up, and then we practice our skills. And the issue is that like we only have a limit, like we have limited time for each other, right? Like I can play as a client for this hour, you will be my client next hour, but we cannot do this for each other all day. And as peers, like we tend to be very cooperative. Like I don't want to make it hard for you, so this is how I'm going to be a client. But using with the current advancement of chatbots, and when we give them certain persona or like backgrounds, and they can wellly adopt those personas and then act as a real world client. So literally our student can have like unlimited times to practice with the chatbots as they wish.
Yeah, boy. I don't want to. I don't want to sell the cow before it's ready to be sold. But I just about 1,000 ideas came up for me along those lines in ways that you could use student models to even transcriptions. Well, see, this is where I'm giving away the cow. Transcriptions of interactions where students are working with other students, and then do the transcription, run it through an LLM, ask it to give feedback on the nuances. It's almost like the old interpersonal process recall, but you're using the process of stopping the tape whenever somebody wanted something to say. But instead, you're using ChatGPT or using some sort of chatbot or LLM to be able to generate that feedback automatically based on the transcript. I did this as a I was asked when I became an ASGW fellow to present to the fellows group, and I did a trick. I put in information about me in the past, information about me in the present, and what I think my future concerns were going to be. And I had them separated as three separate clients: me past, me current, me future. And me as the counselor in a group counseling setting attempting to use a person centered approach to work with the different parts of me, and then ask the LLM to generate the whole group session. And it was pretty cool. Uh, it was a lot of fun. And I had some of the members in the group actually read different parts of me. We did a table reading of a group therapy session generated by. So when I think about the potential for this communicative experience, it oh man, I just didn't have enough time in the day to do all this ideas. So okay, I'm not going to ask you to give away the cow for free, but maybe is there some sort of step by step thing that you can recommend that are if there is additional step by step stuff that you can recommend that our viewers or listeners can try, we'll take a shot at putting that together for them.
Are we talking specifically about like this case of use or in general?
Whatever you want to share, as long as you
Okay.
you you feel comfortable publicly sharing. This is what I do when I do this.
Yeah, I always want to be transparent because I believe using AI is something we should feel like easy to talk about, and to be transparent about the use, especially in like um, academic or in professional settings. And for example, like when I use AI, let's say I use, for example, ChatGPT, right? And on a daily task, like not only my professional work, but also like my personal life as well. But I think one trick I like is that just treat it as just like talk with chatbots as how I talk with a real person. And I know um, we may not always have the luxury have a research assistant. And I love the opportunity to have research assistants. And even for those who have research assistants, but I think you probably only have them 20 hours the most, and sometimes 10 hours, help with your research, help with teaching. But I think ChatGPT kind of helped me in a way, serving as research assistant or graduate assistant here that, I will ask chatbots questions like, I don't understand this concept. Can you clarify for me? But the point is that I always fact check it because I
Mm-hmm.
know at some point they give me wrong answer. For example, there are some statistical issues I want to know. So I Google it and I ask ChatGPT, but it can give me pretty good answer and at certain level. But at some point, like for example, when we ask very specific in a niche area about, let's say, forecasting, right? And they give me some answers, and I just know it doesn't it doesn't add up because it's different than what I have read before in textbook. And then I will
Hmm.
go still like Google Overstack or something like that. But the chatbot did give me a general direction or some knowledge that I can use. And also one thing, I when I talk with other people and they let me know, I have seen a lot of like AI hallucination, and I say, well, of course, when you ask question just very in a very simple, it's like, tell me so and so and so without
Hmm.
further instruction. And I will let them know that, well, would you ask someone just within one sentence and then expecting a full answer to your question? And highly likely not. So I said, well, when I ask the chatbots, I will go step by step. So let's work on this step by step. And then I think Marty, you and I, you also show a lot of like your work on prompt engineering. So how we can better utilize chatbots and to provide more um, factual and correct, accurate information or answers.
Yeah, for me, that forecasting problem, I don't either. Maybe I'm constantly hallucinating myself, but I don't get the complaints of hallucinations because that I when I get results. Because if I get results that I think is wrong, I'm like, no, no, no. Here's an article on forecasting. Use this to model forecasting for you, and then I get back a correct answer. Or if it's off target, I will give it material that I think is essential or correct it along the way. So it's really kind of interact. It's an interactive experience. It's not a Google search, and I think that's where people are still learning. Even if they have gotten off of the I don't ever want to use it, or they've heard about all the problems that make better press than all of the successes. Nobody writes about the successes of using it. They write about the problems they've occurred because that more people will read that because that's where our heads are at right now, versus looking at the potential advantages of using this type of technology. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do. If we can get them past the let's explore this, I think folks will get real excited about it and will see the potential for it. And I don't want to use this episode to talk about my uses of it because this is really kind of focused on you. I do like the idea that you, I like the picture that you paint that you can't just ask anybody a question and expect to get a complete, full answer out of one sentence. And thinking about it that way, I think will help people just improve how they get better responses when they're using particularly LLMs.
Uh, yeah, and I think the one thing I want to highlight is the accessibility of chatbots when we ask or when I ask questions. And it's 24/7. It's always there. Like whenever I have an issue, or I would say, well, please list me, all the 10 articles talking about so and so, and then it give it to me. I mean, of course, I still fact check that, but it give me some resources, give me some themes that I can go into and I can research on, and so I have some lead at least, and then I can further ask questions to clarify. Well, I haven't seen this, and can you tell me more about X, Y, and Z? So I just work with the chatbots collaboratively, treating it as a research partner, not
Yeah,
just like the search engine itself.
yeah. And I use it for much more mundane tasks. I was somewhere, I was going somewhere, sitting in a waiting room, and I'm like, oh, I have to compose a letter to all of the people that we've accepted into the program. Now, what are the things I want to put in the letter? I want this. Well, congratulations, you're in the program. Then I want you're going to get contacted this way. You're going to get this will be the next steps to take. Oh yeah, you'll get your advisor in the email that's sent back to you. That sort of stuff, and I just put it in a random jumble of things that I wanted, and press please. And do you use please? Do you say please when you're interacting with your AI research assistant?
I do.
And that's a side story. We'll get into that. But then I just please create a letter for me, and it's damn near perfect, And then it's like, well, maybe tone this part down a little bit, tone that part down a bit, and make adjustments with it. Whereas I could have been sitting in front of a keyboard instead of sitting in a waiting room somewhere, and sitting in front of a keyboard for an hour trying to figure out the perfect wording that I want. When simply what I'm trying to do is communicate to somebody you're in the program and these are the steps you have to take. So
Mhm.
the please and thank you thing, some of the technology people I hang out with complain about it because it's not environmentally sound. It's like it's using, the environment when you're putting all that extra stuff in there and it's burning up energy. And I'm like, yeah, but my mother raised me to say please and thank you. And if I'm having a relationship, a communication with this entity, I'm going to use please and thank you.
I use that as well. It was like my first instinct when I responded to the chatbots, and I remember I read something, some scientific paper somewhere else talking about like when we add some specific wording, it might improve
Yeah.
the quality of the response.
Yeah. Well, I just kind of, and sometimes I say thank you because it's given me what I wanted. Or sometimes it's thank you. This is really close. Could you please do this? Or I forgot to put this in it. And it will respond. I mean, it would probably respond if I was just rude, but my mother didn't raise me that way. At least not to interact with technology that way. I interact with people sometimes that way, but not technology. So, anything else you want to add before we close out?
Yeah, well, and another thing I think it could serve in our profession is that, like, for example, like it can help me to prepare a specific outline for a guest lecture
Mm-hmm.
or even activities we would like to do. Um, and it can walk through step by step because I would prompt or I will ask like how I can better let student engage in this activity, and it can give me certain ideas. Like I have a lot of ideas, but I'm always open to additional ideas how I can better improve the activity, improve the learning outcomes in the classroom. And I think it's because those chatbots are pre-trained already, so it got some good feedback or good ideas. And this is, I think, it's a good use of chatbot to see how, or because as a human beings, we acknowledge that we are trained, we know a lot of stuff. At the same time, there are always new things or new knowledge emerge every day. And how I can keep up with the current development, I think use AI could be a good way just to augment what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing. For example, this.
Yeah, I'm coming up in the next month. I'll be talking about on-device AI, and there are a couple of arrangements, a couple of apps and things that you can use that keeps the data on your device. And what I've been finding in talking to other folks who are working like in the medical industry or the insurance industry, they're using those models already because they do not want to go off their machines with things that could be proprietary. I think it has implications for mental health because we want to make sure that anything that's necessarily related to clients or client safety and security is kept on device and kept locked down instead of going out to the universe. And not that we would ever put identifying information in AI for something, but still we'd like to kind of keep it under our roof. And those new models, those new apps, and the way in which they use the models that are out there, but keeping it on your device, I think that's what I'm going to be talking about in a month, and maybe bring it to this show more so after I do that. So,
Yeah, please subscribe and follow.
thank you. And so thank you for doing this. Hey, wow. This has been a first step, which is really kind of fun, and I'm glad you were willing to take this first step with me. And we'll get the word out, and hopefully we'll get more and more folks. It's kind of nice because each episode isn't dependent on what happened that week. I do some podcasts that are really focused on what happened that week, and the next week they're obsolete. But the material and the information you can get from each of these episodes, as we have guests come on and talk about AI, is something that's won't necessarily go away. We'll only improve it from show to show. So stick with us. You can watch and subscribe at YouTube on youtube.com AI Productivity Workflow. It's youtube.com/@AI Productivity Workflow. And that'll get you to our channel, and you will be able to pick up the podcast versions of this on any of the podcast servers that are out there. So feel free to find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major platforms. Everything you need to know about the show can be found at thepodtalk.net, the website for all of the media shows that I do. You can also email us at thepodtalknetwork@gmail.com. Hey, if you're doing AI, join us on the show and get an opportunity to talk about how you're using us. Look for other shows like Circular Firing Squad, The Tech Savvy Professor, and Vision Profiles are a couple that I produce. Yusen, thank you so much for doing this. And until next time, keep experimenting, stay productive, and let AI work for you.